He's been in the shop, like you said, every summer for the last 6 years. I can give him a task now. Like this motor actually blew up Friday before we come. And we started on at 10 o'clock Friday morning. He was there side by side. Saturday afternoon, we fired it up, cleaned it up Sunday, made it to the show for Monday. So I can task him with anything, and I'm confident that he can tear it down, put it back together. If he's got any questions, he don't hesitate to ask, but he's always been hands-on, same way I was, training, and there ain't too much under this truck, top of the truck, that he can't take care of.
That was the voice of Robbie Turnage, owner of the Turnage and Sons, growing now 30-plus truck milk haul fleet headquartered in Tylertown, Mississippi. And speaking there about the young man who will make the 5th generation in trucking for the Turnage family. That'd be Robbie Turnage's son, Levi, who our own long-haul Paul Marhofer met at the Mid-America Trucking Show back in March and wrote about in subsequent weeks. I'm Todd Dills, your host for this week's Overdrive Radio edition, as usual. And Turnage spoke there about one among the myriad ways the family business has persisted in milk hauling through all those 5 generations. The hands-on nature of each successive generation's training and involvement in the shop, behind the wheel, and everything else that goes along with running a trucking business. The truck he was talking about you can catch some pictures of in Long Haul Paul's story about the Turnages, published back in July. I'll post a link to it in the show notes for this September 15th, 2025 edition of Overdrive Radio, wherever you're listening to. And stay tuned for much more reporting about Turnage and Sons as the fleet's among semi-finalists for Overdrive's 2025 Small Fleet Champ Award. We began just last week airing the stories about all the semi-finalists. In addition to the Turnages, in alphabetical order they are, drumroll please, Clifford Hay Incorporated out of Cobleskill, New York. Also out of New York, the food-grade tank haul business of Derek Wolf Trucking. Past Small Fleet Champ finalists Hallahan Transport of La Crosse, Wisconsin. Veteran-owned Mission Complete Transport out of Evansville, Indiana. Oberman Logistics of Huntington, Tennessee. Thomasville Furniture Express out of Thomasville, North Carolina. And one more I left out of that, in addition to Turnage, who you'll hear more from in this edition of Overdrive Radio. That'd be MRL Transport and its owner, Mark Ledford, whose story aired last week in the Small Fleet Champ section at overdriveonline.com. MRL owner Ledford there told the story of his past up to 35 truck fleet, Red Baron Transportation, which he built over a decade and a half this century before selling out, then restarting sometime after as MRL Transport with just a single truck. He's up to about 5 trucks now, with 4 drivers employed, and yes, he still gets behind the wheel himself, of course. When we talked in early August, it was at the end of a long week, and he'd just come back from Georgia after pulling a brokered load that he thought he was going to put another of his drivers on at first.
No, I took one load down to Macon, Georgia, first of the week, Tuesday, and then I was in the office, and then, like I said, I was looking for something for one of my drivers to do yesterday, and I usually don't have to book too many outbound broker loads. I usually got enough customers that I kind of make sure I got something for everybody as they come in. And if I'm short, I have to find something. Well, I found a little something to go down a little short hop for last end of the week. And then after I got it, my customer emailed me and said, "Hey, we want you to make this load a round trip." And I'm like, "Oh, what load?" And then I got looking at the load number, and I'm like, "Oh crap, I'm supposed to deliver today." I'm like, "Yeah." And it was going to West Tennessee, so I said, "Well, I'll give him that one. Looks like I'm going to Georgia."
All's well that ends well. A relatively short hop that customers run, loaded to Union City, Tennessee, and back for Ledford's driver. When he and I talked, I was struck by the relationship-building aspect of any small fleet's success. Ledford's today still serving customers he got started with as Red Baron in that fleet's early days in the first decade of this century, building new business too. Ledford got his start in business with just one truck, as you'll hear in today's podcast, and the simple fact of his willingness to get his hands dirty, as it were, behind the wheel, as with Robbie and Levi Turnage in the shop, has been crucial in his case, building the customer base.
Even now, I go out and knock on doors and try to bring in a customer. And a few weeks ago, I walked into a place that's a company moving from Massachusetts down here, and guy said, "You ever?" He said, "You ever make solutions, soluble water-based solutions?" And he said, "You ever go to Massachusetts?" I said, "Well, I'll go if I can get a customer out of it." He said, "Well, we have 2 loads that's coming out of our warehouse to get our stuff down here. You interested?" I said, "Yeah." So I went up there myself with one of them and brought a load back.
Okay.
So now I expect to have a customer from him. We stay in touch and everything. So I do whatever I have to do to get a customer.
So today, a little more of a window on 2 Small Fleet Championship semifinalists. We'll be announcing the finalists in early October, then hosting them at the National Association of Small Trucking Companies annual conference late that month here in Nashville, October 23rd through the 25th. NASTC's long supported the Small Fleet Champ as sponsor, and I'd encourage any fleet with authority to consider the organization for a myriad of benefits that come along with membership, whether you're sitting at just 1 truck or 30 or more. Find more information about NASTC's fuel program, drug and alcohol testing services, and much, much more at NASTC, that's NASTC.com. Read about all of our Small Fleet Champ semi-finalists throughout September as their stories air via overdriveonline.com/small-fleet-champ. And on the other side of a break, we'll dive right in with Long Haul Paul Marhofer's talk with Robbie and Levi Turnage. From the cab of their big red 2005 custom Peterbilt 379 they showed at the Mid-America Trucking Show in March, bringing home some hardware for a 2nd place in the combo class for the working truck category. Keep tuned. Ask any driver. Wind or diesel problems don't happen all at once. That's why Howe's Products offers total performance and protection. Diesel Defender cleans and prepares your system so you start off the season strong. Before cold hits, dose up with Diesel Treat to keep fuel flowing all winter long by preventing gelling in even the harshest temps. If you do ever get stuck, Howe's Diesel Lifeline is your rescue, reliquefying gelled fuel fast. With Howe's, you don't just face winter, you beat it. Visit HOWES, HowesProducts.com for more. Here's a big thanks to the Howes Company for their continued support of Overdrive Radio. Now, here's Paul Marhofer in conversation with Robbie and Levi Turnage. Marhofer starting here after something of an apology for using the cab of the 2005 Big Red 379 as a recording studio, as it were, shined up and near spotless as it was on the truck show lot at Matt's.
Figured maybe you wouldn't want us to touch your truck after you polished on it.
No, that's what we bring it up here for the show as far where people can get in them, kids can play in them. That's why the floor's a little dirty. The name's Robbie Turnage, Turnage and Sons LLC. It's a family-owned company. I'm the 4th generation milk hauler. My son, he's 5th generation.
So we've got one of the sons here. What is your name, sir?
My name is Levi Turnage.
Wow, 4 generations of milk hauling in Mississippi. What's the family farm situation there? I mean, what is it now and what did it used to be?
Years ago in our county alone, we had over 300 dairymen. We're down to 4. State of Mississippi back in the late 80s, early 90s was around 650 dairymen, down to 44 dairymen and 5 processors now. My grandpa started it back in the day hauling in cans, and we just grew up in it. And then once he come along, he's pretty much grew up in it too. So it's kind of a dying breed from our area, but we're still giving it as much fits as we can.
The company I work for, that's how they started hauling the cans. It takes a strong man to do that work.
Yes. Grandpa was stocky little fella. He was short, but he was strong as ox. And he's pretty much. My mother, she's 3rd generation. The whole time I was growing up, I stayed with my grandparents more than I did her because she was driving all the time. And matter of fact, this is my stepdad, Danny Lee. He's in the 3rd generation with us. So as we grew up, that's kind of the work ethic that we got. If you wanted something, you had to get out there and get after it and work for it. And he instilled it in me, and I'm hoping and passing it on to him. Most everything is family oriented. Even like our driver sitting beside us, Alan, he's part of our family. We take care of him, he takes care of us. The biggest deal is Danny that just walked by. He taught me about 95% of all the mechanic works I know. And everything we do, everybody that's in my office is my family. The ones that are working in my shop, we're all family. I got one boy that's not a family member, but everybody else is. So if it wasn't for us being able to turn wrenches, overhaul motors, transmission variants, do 90% of our work, we probably wouldn't have made it past third generation either. And the price of getting trucks worked on the road is just outrageous. I had one in one of my trucks. I was at his Little League tournament for playing baseball. It cost me $852 for a $52 fuel line because it was on the road. So us being able to work on our own stuff, take care of our own equipment, is the only benefit of us being able to stay and keep going generation to generation, especially with a small company.
Levi, did you also start off in the shop?
That's exactly where I started off, and I mean, I was up under this truck in diapers helping my dad work on stuff, and I was just born into it, and I wouldn't change a single thing about it. I worked in the shop every summer and in school, and I just love it. I'd rather be working in the shop than go on a vacation somewhere. It's just my happy place, and I enjoy every bit of it.
I wonder if that's maybe the downfall of some trucking companies in that third generation, because a lot of times the third generation starts off in the office.
Not him. He was in a onesie crawling on a piece of cardboard under a truck with me pulling wires out of 88 Pete when we first got started, our second truck. And he's been in it ever since. And I ain't gonna lie, I preached to him from 6th grade all the way to graduate. Go to college, get you a Monday through Friday job. I told him, I give you the title to the truck and you can just have it to play with. Nope, he's just like me. He's got diesel and oil flowing through his veins, and he's been in the shop, like you said, every summer for the last 6 years. I can give him a task now, like this motor actually blew up Friday before we come. And we started on at 10 o'clock Friday morning. He was there side by side. Saturday afternoon, we fired it up, cleaned it up Sunday, made it to the show for Monday. So I can task him with anything, and I'm confident that he can tear it down, put it back together. If he's got any questions, he don't hesitate to ask, but he's always been hands-on, same way I was, training, and there ain't too much under this truck, top of the truck, that he can't take care of.
I think any family business, it needs to take heed of that. I mean, if you're not afraid to get your hands dirty in trucking, you can survive this, I think. I worked for a company a long time ago. I won't mention it, but when that third generation came over, that's when the race cars started showing up in the bays where the trucks used to be, and then our checks started getting lost in the mail, and it became like you just could see the handwriting on the wall. But it's awesome to see a trucking company last 4 generations, because it's almost like farms, places that are kind of connected to the land can pull that off, but not very often in trucking. But for you, it's just the foundation is in knowing the guts of this machine.
Oh yeah, I mean every aspect of the business. Like I said, he's 19 years old and he knows it. If we get a farmer that calls at 1 o'clock in the morning, hey, my agitator broke. If he's at the house at 1 o'clock in the morning, hey boy, get up, put your pants on, it's time to go to work. He gets up, he goes, he loads the milk, brings it back to the yard. Next day we'll finish up the route. If he's not there, I take care of it. But that's the same way I was brought up. I was 14 still driving a truck. They called at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Grandpa tapped me on the shoulder, hey, go get so-and-so. That's the same pretty much mentality we brought him up with. His little sister, she's coming up through the deal, but I don't think she's going to have nothing to do with the trucks, but she likes them just about as much as he does.
So you had probably a lot of good local farm pickup work that's not there anymore. How did you have to adapt to keep on surviving?
When I started off in 2005, October 2005, everything was just conventional milk. Well, they started going to organic milk. We started off with 2 dairymen in 2005, and it's increased to 33 dairymen in Mississippi and Louisiana alone. And it was kind of that little niche market that we kind of slid in. And I was actually had my own truck pulling milk for Lone Star out of Texas at the time. And it come in to where I slid in and started picking up off the farm, and it's just increased since then. And, I work for the dairyman. I don't work for the company. And I make it clear to the company, I work for them first. So if they need me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're there. He's there. And that's kind of how we got into it. And when they started going into the organic, more of them come over to organic because the price per 100 was higher. And that's how we got to where we started out with 1 truck, and we're up to 32 now.
You've got some gorgeous trucks here. Can you tell me about these 2 trucks you have at the Mid-American Truck Show?
Well, this truck here started out as a 2005. It was a 70-inch bump. And I had an 88 model, but when back problems being tall with the wall in the back, I ended up trading it in and getting this truck. It got wrecked in Pennsylvania, jackknifed up there. And like I always told my wife, I said, I'm going to build a truck. Well, it took us 3 years when we got it back from start to finish. And, every time we turn around, we changing something. So we changed it from a 70-inch. I like a 48 or a 36-inch. That way I don't like as much clutter. Because in big sleepers, they throw all kind of stuff in them. And I just don't like all the clutter. So we've been working on this one, and he was coming up the whole time as we was building it, and he's like, well, let's do this for the stereo. Let's do this for this. And, so every time I turn around, that's the way it took 3 years. Well, it should have took about a year. Every time we go by the body shop or something other, he sees something he likes, so we ended up changing it. So it just kept escalating. And Alan, my driver beside me, he's been with me for a little over 8 years now, and he's always kept, good care of his truck as far as keeping it clean. He'll be in his own front yard greasing it. The only time he wants to bring it to the shop is change oil. He wants to take care of everything else himself. That trailer was wrecked. October was 2 years ago, laid over on its side. So when we had it redone, we had his truck painted. And when we got the trailer back, I told him, I said, you know what? That trailer ain't got a dent, scratch, nick on it. Take it to the shop. We're going to have it painted to match your truck. And he's been pulling it for probably 8 months now, 9 months since we got it back. And every one of my drivers, the ones that really want to take care of their equipment, we try to, I don't mind buying chrome. I don't mind sun visors and tinted windows and stuff like that. I like for my trucks to look good as long as they're willing to take care of them. We're willing to fix them up more and more. But these are our 2 that but because it's basically family oriented, and he's got his whole family up here with him. My wife and daughter, she had softball tournaments or games this week, so she wasn't able to make it, or she would be with us. And so he brings his whole family, and it's just good for all of them. In all our trucks, I see a lot of boys that got their doors locked off where people can't get in them. This is a working truck. I get dirt on the floor. I don't see why a kid can't get in here and get dirt on the floor too.
So it's almost like you give your drivers a voice, and you give your children a voice, and what the finished product of the truck is going to be. And so it's almost like these trucks are sort of like, I don't know, almost like a projection of your, I don't know, something that you share together. Like the outcome of this truck is something that your family participates in, your drivers participate in.
Oh yeah, it's like a rolling part of the family. Like this one here we've had for almost 19 years, and it's he is now, and however long he wants to keep it. But I don't foresee it ever leaving, our possession unless something really goes bad. But I don't have too many turnovers. The older trucks, I like them better than the new ones. We got several new ones, 19s and 21 models with the pack cars. I like the fuel efficiency, but it's nothing like a square nose Peterbilt.
Oh, I know. I admire somebody that can just keep this going for several generations. I became a trucker, and I hauled produce, and it was a hard life, and my kids always, went to college and figured out how to do something else. And in a way, I was happy for them, but in a way, I'm kind of jealous of people like you that can really pass this on as a lifestyle to their family. And maybe it was just a difference in what sort of freight I was hauling. But I think maybe milk hauling might be, maybe you get home a little more. Of course, you're having to chase that milk farther now, aren't you?
Oh yeah. When we first started, before we started hauling the organic milk, I was gone 14 to 21 days, and I come in for 2. And then the organic milk and him being born hit pretty close neck to neck. And when we first started, we was picking it up off the farm. We was going to Winchester, Virginia, and Wellman, Iowa. Well, now we haul to Publix in Tacula, Georgia. So it made it to where I could pick up milk today, go to Tacula, unload in the morning. I was home the next night. So every other night I was home. And then, the home time got more, and, it kept expanding and growing to where I'm home 90% of the time every night. I told her, my wife, my biggest deal was because my mama drove. I think she's seen about 5 basketball games I played in through high school because she was always working. She went to Mobile. And I told my wife, I said, we're going to bust our tails until them kids get up in junior high, junior varsity when they play in sports. And See, I missed 3 of my daughter's games this year. I missed 1 of her volleyball games the year before last, and I think 1 softball game. I think I missed 2 of his baseball games through their whole high school. So, you know, it's been a blessing to me being able to do what we do, because I didn't have to do like my mama and stay working all the time. I was able to take off and watch my kids grow up the whole time.
That's a great record. Wow. That's an enviable record for a trucker to miss so few games. And Levi, do you feel like this is going to be your life's work, being a milk hauler?
I believe it's going to be. As long as the milk keeps going like it's going and staying busy, I have a good feeling it's going to keep providing for this family well.
And those cows they don't take off for Christmas, though.
They don't take off any day. Them cows do. We just love them. But we got one dairy barn that's got a carousel for the cows. It goes around in a big circle as they get milk. So that all of the cows getting really treated well.
Big thanks to Paul Marhofer and Robbie and Levi Turnage. Best of luck to them in the Small Fleet Championship. Keep tuned for more of their story at overdriveonline.com/small-fleet-champ. There, today, you can read all about 5-truck MRL transport, headquartered in York, South Carolina, near Charlotte, across the state border up North Carolina. Owner Mark Ledford's based there, just up the road from my hometown of Rock Hill, South Carolina. And my talk with him reminded me of one of the reasons I got into the work of writing at a young age and continued into it professionally now for decades. It's the stories we tell each other, ultimately, that proved among the biggest of influences from an early age, and Ledford's certainly got a story to tell, and tells it well, as it were. Read all about him for sure at the website, yet listen on for some parts of the story that just didn't make the final cut. Here he takes us from his early experience working a dock in the 1980s at just 19 years old, all the way up through buying his first truck, founding that former fleet, Red Baron Transportation. Here's Ledford.
I was 19 years old, and I was worked in the evenings, worked for a map company in a shipping and receiving warehouse during the day, and in the evenings I worked on a loading dock. And I think I worked on the dock about 6 months, and I learned how to drive a yard switcher. And then it's funny, I was switching trailers, and I was there for right at 5 years. And it was funny, I remember wanting to get on the road and drive, and I didn't go to school to get my driver's license. I learned how to drive out there on the lot. Well, then my sister was dating a guy whose family owned 5 trucks. So I used one of his trucks and went and took the driving test. So I got my CDLs, but I had no experience. And so I was driving on the lot, and I remember going to the terminal manager and told him I wanted to be a local driver. And I had a couple of speeding tickets on my record. And he looked up across the desk, and he says, Mark, I could say that I don't ever see you driving a truck. and it kind of, I look at that now, and I tell that story because I'm like, now if you could see me now. But yeah, he told me he never sees me driving a truck, and I'm like, okay, so I didn't get to drive there, and then so while I was where I started driving on the road, while I was doing yard switching there, I was actually yard switching part time for later in the years for Fort Worth Carrier, which was an in-house carrier for dealer department stores. And how I got started there was another story where they started a team run operation. And the gentleman who was over it was always helped me out a lot. And he told me, he says, if you want to drive, I run team operation. If you want to pair up with this other driver, he said, I'll give you an opportunity to drive. And I said, okay, well, if that's what I got to do to get started. And we were doing our first trip, and we went, and the run was from Charlotte to New Jersey and back, and then from Charlotte to California and back. We're on our first trip, and we go to New Jersey and come back, and on the way out to California, I'm in a sleeper, and all of a sudden I hear a big bang, and I'm on my head, and the mattress is on top of me. So he had went to sleep, veered off the road in Texas, and hit a bridge railing and turned the truck on its side. And all I could hear on the CB was everybody saying, back it down, we got one turned over up here. And it was kind of comical to a point where I had glasses. I couldn't see nothing without my glasses on. And I'm feeling around for my glasses, and I find a pair of glasses and put them on. And then I look up, and throw the hatch out on top. And I climb up there and sit on the side of it, and it's nighttime, and all I see is lights, and everything's blurry. And I pull the glasses off, and there were sunglasses. I thought, here I come out of the side of this truck, just flipped over with a pair of sunglasses on. And, yeah. And, everybody was okay, and this people had stopped to help, and this big truck driver stood in front of the big fairing on the roof. He says, slide on down here, I'll catch you. And I was probably 25 at the time, and and after that I still went driving for Dillard Department Store, but I told him I wouldn't ride with nobody else. And so that was my first and last team driving job. I drove for them for 5 years, and I took a break from driving for a while, and I was worked in a warehouse for about 2.5, 3 years. I became a warehouse manager, kind of got out of driving for a while, but I still had the fever to drive. And so when I left them, I bought my first truck. There was a guy bringing in Black & Decker product. We were a point-of-sale distribution company. And I said, hey, if I buy a truck, will you put me on? He goes, yeah, sure. And I had been, saving some money up, but I was, I didn't make the money I used to make driving a truck when I was in the warehouse. So I used up a lot of my savings and things. But I bought a truck, and I used the last $5,000 I had in my savings account and put down on a truck. So it was make it or break it. And so that one truck, and I became owner operator, and I was running Texas and back. And then next thing you know, I'll buy another truck.
What was that first truck?
It was a Kenworth T2000. It was like a 98. I think it was a 98. It was used. And so I wound up with 3 trucks, and I was leased on with a guy, and we were running Black & Decker freight, and I had 2 drivers, just like most people do. You're an owner operator, you run under somebody else's authority, and I'm running 3 trucks. Well, I had met was my wife, become my wife at the time. I met, and we decided that we were going to have kids. And I said, well, we've had 3 trucks going. And I said, well, I don't want to be gone and not see my kids grow up. I said, so we'll start our own company. Well, I had a dog, a Bichon named Snoopy. And so I bought a brand spanking new, I want to say 2003 or maybe brand spanking new Kenworth T600 for $98,000. And named it named the company Red Baron Transportation after his dog. And at that time I got my authority, and now I had 4 trucks. And so I drove the new one, and I let the other 3 stay leased on, and I let the 3 pay for the one. And then after 30 days, I pulled another truck over. And after 30 days, I pulled another truck over. But I want to give credit. There was a company, and they're still around, called Chambers Transportation. The owner now is Ryan Chambers. He had his father was Tullis Chambers, and at one point I had been leased on with them, and he knew I had bigger plans, and so he understood as I was pulling trucks over. He says, "Look, I don't mind what you're doing, just don't pull them all at one time." And so every 30 days, he said, that's a quarter of my fleet, And so at the end of it, I did him right and pulled a truck over every 30 days and let 3 pay for one. And that's how Red Baron got started. And and so that's we didn't factory anything. I mean, we let everything kind of pay for itself. And then next thing you know, I bought 4 trucks at one time, or I was at the auction, I bought 4 trucks at one time, and we grew it to a point where, okay, now we need a facility. So then we leased a lot with an office and 2-bay garage, and that's how Red Baron got started, and then it grew it to 35 trucks.
And here's best of luck to all our Small Fleet Champ semi-finalists. Read about them all over the next 3 weeks at overdriveonline.com/small-fleet-champ. Hope to see you in October at the annual conference of the Small Fleet Champ sponsor, the National Association of Small Truck Companies, where we'll host 4 finalists and announce the Small Fleet Champs in 2 categories, 3 to 10 trucks and 11 to 30 trucks, based on size at the end of last year. Find that link and others to more coverage of these businesses in the show notes for the podcast wherever you're listening to Overdrive Radio. It's on Spotify and SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts and YouTube, Overdrive's Facebook page, and any listening platform out there, really. Leave us a review there if you're enjoying these, and here's a big thanks for that. Big thanks for listening, too, as always. Overdrive Radio is a production of Overdrive, the voice of the American trucker. It's edited and produced by me, Todd Dills, with the acoustic guitar and other support of trucker-songwriter Long Haul Paul Marhofer, who we heard from today, of course. The theme is Legend of the Snake Man by Marhofer, featuring the guitar work of Travis, the Snake Man himself, Whammock, Terry Two Socks Richardson on bass, keys by Tishomingo Jim Whitehead, and on drums, Andrew Marshall. The podcast is backed up further by Overdrive's own social media coordinator, Jasmine Campbell, senior editor Matt Cole, executive editor Alex Lockey, and video editors Lawson Rudison and Andrew Glenn. See you next time.